I've guided in the thoroughfare for 12 years. 12. That's important because what I'm about to tell you doesn't come from some weekend warrior who got spooked by a grizzly shadow. I know every game trail between Mountain Creek and the Yellowstone headwaters. I can tell you what time of year the elk move through Escarpment Creek, which meadows the Delta Pack hunts, where the cutthroats spawn. This was back in August of 2017. I'd taken 10 days off to hike the valley alone. No clients, no schedule, just me and 80 miles of the most remote wilderness in the lower 48. The nearest road was 32 miles behind me when things went wrong. I need you to understand something about the thoroughfare. It's not just remote, it's old remote. The kind of place where the silence has weight, where you can walk for 3 days without seeing another human boot print. The lodgepole pines grow so thick in places that noon looks like dusk. The Yellowstone River runs wild through it. No dams, no bridges, just cold water cutting through meadows that haven't changed since the sheep eaters walked them. First day was textbook. I'd launched from 9 Mile Post, followed the East Shore Trail past Terrace Point, made camp at Beaver Dam Creek just as the afternoon thermals started pushing clouds off the Absarokas. Normal. Recorded my location on the Garmin. Habit from guiding. Bear canister secured, camp clean, everything by the book. The tracks appeared on day 2. I found them overlaying a fresh elk trail near Cabin Creek, maybe 6 hours south of my first camp. The elk prints were textbook, cloven, pointed, about 4 inches. But pressed into them, crossing at a diagonal were, I still don't know what to call them. They were flat, like a human foot but wrong. Too long, maybe 16 inches. 3 toes, deep heel strike. The thing that made my neck prickle? Whatever made them had been walking with the elk herd, matching their pace, moving when they moved. I've tracked bear for 20 years. Black bear, grizzly, you name it. Bears leave a plantigrade print. 5 toes, claws, that distinctive pad shape. These weren't bear. The depth told me weight. Had to be 300 pounds minimum to sink that deep into dry soil. But the stride length, 6 feet between steps. Casual walking pace. You know what has a 6-foot stride at a walk? Nothing native to Yellowstone. I took photos, measured them against my Leatherman. GPS marked the location. Then I did what any rational person would do. I followed my route plan and kept moving south. That night, I camped at Site 6Y2, right where the trail hits the Yellowstone proper. Good site, elevated, clear sight lines, bear pole properly maintained. I was hanging my food when I heard it. One step, just one, about 40 yards into the timber. A branch breaking under weight. Then nothing, not another sound. No follow-up steps, no animal moving away. Just that one deliberate crack and then silence so complete I could hear my own pulse. Bears don't do that. They lumber, they huff. They make noise because they own these woods and don't care who knows it. Elk and deer might freeze, but you hear them breathing, smell them if you're downwind. This was different. This was something that had taken one step to let me know it was there, then gone completely silent, testing me. I didn't sleep much. Third day, I changed my plan. Instead of pushing deeper south toward the Thoroughfare Ranger Station, I decided to document. Whatever was out here, I needed evidence. I'm not some Bigfoot hunter, I'm a professional guide with a reputation to protect. But I also know what I know, and something was wrong out here. I set up near a game intersection at Trappers Creek, placed 3 chemical glow sticks in a triangle pattern, 50 feet apart. If anything walked through, I'd have size reference in the photos. Settled in with my camera, telephoto lens mounted. The waiting is what gets you. Your eyes start creating movement where there isn't any. Every shadow becomes suspect. At 21:14, I checked my watch. Something moved on the ridge above me. Not through my glow stick perimeter, but parallel to it, about 70 yards upslope. I saw it between the lodge poles. Tall, upright, moving with this fluid purpose. Not the shambling walk of a bear on its hind legs. This thing glided. When it passed between 2 trees, I got a sense of its height. Had to be 8 feet, maybe more. The way it moved made no sound. None. I could hear pine needles dropping from branches. But this thing moving through deadfall? Silent. I raised my camera. The autofocus hunted in the dark, couldn't lock on. By the time I switched to manual, it was gone. Just gone. Like it had never been there. That's when the real stalking began. The next morning, I found prints around my glow stick perimeter. Not through it, around it. Whatever this was, it had circled my entire setup, staying just outside the light. The prints were the same, three-toed, impossibly deep. But now I noticed something else. In several places, there were knuckle marks in the soil, like it had dropped to all fours, but not like a bear. More like an ape. But the proportions were wrong. Arms too long. The knuckle marks were nearly 4 feet ahead of the rear prints. I packed up and moved. Quickly. The plan was to reach the thoroughfare ranger station, check in, maybe find someone else out here. But as I hiked, I realized it was following me. You develop a sense for being watched. In the backcountry, it's usually benign. A curious marmot, a distant wolf. This was different. The feeling had direction, had weight. It was always uphill from me, always parallel to my route. When I stopped to filter water at Mountain Creek, I heard breathing. Deep, controlled breathing from the ridge above. When I stood, it stopped. When I moved, after about 30 seconds, I'd hear a branch break. Just one. Always just one. Then it started hurting me. I need to explain something about the terrain. The thoroughfare valley has natural choke points, places where steep ridges funnel you toward specific paths. I know them all. But that day, every time I tried to move east toward higher ground, I'd hear movement on that side, deliberate movement. When I turned west, silence. It was pushing me northwest, toward the valley mouth, away from the ranger station, away from the deeper wilderness. By late afternoon, I'd covered 12 miles, brutal pace with a full pack. My hip flexor was screaming, and I'd drained most of my water. I had to stop at Cliff Creek. Had to. The moment I knelt by the water, I saw its reflection. It was standing on the ridge above me, tall, God, so tall, covered in dark hair that hung in mats. But the shape was wrong for any animal I know. The shoulders too broad, arms too long. It was watching me, perfectly still. When I turned to look directly, it stepped backward into the trees. Not quickly, not like it was startled, more like it had shown me what it wanted me to see. The storm hit that night. Wyoming thunderstorms are violent, but this was something else. Lightning every few seconds, rain coming sideways. I'd set camp quickly, barely got my tent staked before it hit. The wind was howling so loud, I almost didn't hear it moving outside. Almost. Between lightning strikes, in those moments of absolute darkness, I could hear it circling my tent. Not footsteps. I never heard footsteps. But the sound of something large displacing air, moving around me. The tent fly would push inward like something was leaning close, then release. At 3:10, something hit my bear canister, hit it hard enough to send it rolling. That canister was 50 feet from my tent, properly secured. I heard it tumbling down the slope, then nothing. The rain stopped. The wind died. In the silence, I heard it breathing. Long, deep breaths. Patient. Then the lightning came again. One massive strike, maybe 200 yards away. The flash lit everything like daylight. It was right there, 20 feet from my tent. The proportions were impossible. It stood on 2 legs, but hunched forward. One massive hand braced against a pine trunk. The fingers were too long. The face, I only saw it for a second, was almost human, but stretched wrong. The neck too long, eyes set too wide. When our eyes met in that lightning flash, it didn't look away. It tilted its head, studying me. Then darkness, thunder. When the next flash came, it was gone. I stayed in my tent until dawn. Didn't move, barely breathed. At first light, I found my bear canister 200 yards downslope, crushed inward, but not opened. The prints around my camp were everywhere, circling, approaching, retreating. In one spot, it had stood for a long time. The prints were deeper there, just standing, watching. I hiked out in 8 hours. Didn't stop, didn't rest, just moved. It followed me to Cabin Creek, then stopped. I know it stopped because that crushing feeling of being watched just lifted, like pressure releasing from my chest. When I reached the trailhead, my Garmin showed I'd covered 31 miles in 8 hours. That's not possible with a full pack. But fear does things to you. I filed my report. Wildlife incident, unidentified predator. They marked it as a probable grizzly encounter complicated by exhaustion. The photos I took were unclear, shadows and shapes that could be anything. The footprint photos were clear, but they classified them as inconclusive, possibly degraded bear prints. 2 weeks later, I was resupplying in Cody when Tom Hadley found me. Tom's guided the thoroughfare for 30 years, knows it better than anyone alive. He bought me a coffee, didn't say anything for a while. Then he asked, quiet like, "Did it follow you out?" When I told him it had stopped at Cabin Creek, He nodded. "That's the boundary," he said. "Always has been. The tall one keeps to the deep wilderness. Has since before the park was established." I asked him what it was. He shrugged. "The Shoshone called it the Stick Indian. The trappers had other names. Now we just call it the tall one. It's been here longer than us. Sometimes it walks people out when they go too deep, stay too long, makes sure they remember they don't belong there." He finished his coffee, stood to leave. Then he said something I'll never forget. "You were lucky. When it shows itself in the lightning, that's a warning. When it doesn't show itself at all, those are the hikers that don't come back." I still guide in Yellowstone, but I don't take clients to the deep thoroughfare anymore. There are places we're allowed to visit, and places we're not. The tall one made sure I understood the difference. Some boundaries aren't marked on maps. Some things are older than the Park Service, and some warnings you only get once. I need to tell someone about what happened on Specimen Creek Trail in September 2020. The rangers didn't believe me, wrote it off as altitude sickness, said the elevation got to me when I pushed toward Shelf Lake. But I know what hypoxia feels like, and I know what I saw standing on those ridges above the North Fork drainage. My name's Evan Marks. I was 26, visiting from Portland, convinced that a solo backcountry trip would prove something after Sarah left. First time hiking alone in Yellowstone, but I'd done enough weekend trips in the Cascades to feel confident with my Garmin eTrex 32X and ultralight gear. The plan was simple: follow Specimen Creek from the trailhead off Highway 191, maybe push toward Shelf Lake if I felt strong, camp somewhere legal along the creek. 3 days to clear my head. That morning started perfect. Crisp September air, that particular golden quality of light you only get in the Gallatin's. The trail followed the creek through lodgepole forest, occasionally opening to pocket meadows, where I could see the ridgelines ahead. Electric Peak dominated the horizon to the southeast, its 10,969-foot summit catching the morning light. About 2 miles in, I recorded a voice note. "God, this place makes you feel small in the best way. The park feels almost tamed out here." Listening to that recording now makes my stomach turn. By mid-afternoon, I'd passed the Sportsman Lake Junction and was heading up the North Fork. The 2007 burn scar opened up views I hadn't expected. Meldrum Mountain rising to 9,468 feet on my right. The long ridge running toward Bighorn Peak on my left. To my left, up on the dirt bluffs above the trail, I could make out the petrified trees Specimen Creek was named for. Ancient trunks turned to stone, standing like sentinels. The forest gave way to one of those high meadows around 8,200 feet where you can see for miles. That's when I first noticed it. A figure stood on the ridge to my left, maybe half a mile away, and 400 feet above me, upright, motionless. At first, I figured another hiker taking in the view. I'd seen a few people near the trailhead, a guided horse party heading deep into the backcountry. But through my camera zoom, the proportions seemed wrong. Too narrow through the chest, arms hanging too long, past where knees should be, head held forward like a wolf testing the wind. I waved. Nothing. The figure didn't shift, didn't acknowledge me, just stood there, silhouetted against that endless Montana sky. Then the sound started. It came from everywhere and nowhere. This low, vibrating tone that seemed to rise from the earth itself. Not a howl, not wind through the rocks. Something between a growl and a hum. Steady as a generator, deep enough to feel in my sternum. I've heard wolves in the Lamar Valley. I've listened to grizzlies grunt in Hayden. This was neither. "Weird acoustics," I muttered, pulling out my phone to record another voice note about the strange sound bouncing between ridges. The Gallatin Range does odd things with echoes. Everyone knows that. Sound travels weird up here, gets trapped between the valleys. I kept hiking, checking my GPS occasionally to track my progress toward the Crescent Lake Junction, still 6 miles ahead. But an hour later, something was wrong. According to my eTrex, I'd been walking in circles. My tracks showed these impossible loops, even though I'd been following the clear trail north the entire time. The unit had full satellite lock, battery at 80%. I checked my backup compass. The needle was spinning lazy circles like I was standing on a magnetic anomaly. The figure on the ridge hadn't moved. No, that's not right. It had moved. When I looked up from troubleshooting my GPS, it was on a different section of ridge now. Still that same impossible distance away. Still in that unnatural stance. like it had covered what should have been a 20-minute scramble in the space between glances. I decided to climb toward it. Stupid, I know, but I needed to prove to myself it was just another person, maybe a ranger checking wildlife cameras. I knew the wind patterns up here. Prevailing westerlies this time of year should be carrying my scent upslope. If it was wildlife, it would have scented me by now, moved off. The fact that it stayed meant human. Had to be. I pulled out my topo map, cross-referenced with the GPS when it flickered into momentary clarity. That ridge was at roughly 8,600 feet, about 400 feet above my current position. The switchbacks ahead should get me there in maybe 30 minutes if I pushed. I'd done steeper climbs back home. Angel's Rest was a 1,500-foot gain in less distance. This was doable. The trail switchbacked up through scattered whitebark pines. My breath came harder. We were approaching 8,700 feet now. The trees thinned. I stopped to catch my breath, checked for other hikers through my binoculars. The main trail below was empty. No dust clouds from horses, no bright jackets moving through the meadows. We were alone up here, me and whatever stood on that ridge. I pulled out my phone, tried to video the figure. The screen showed static where it should be, like trying to film a magnet. The autofocus hunted wildly, unable to lock onto something that was clearly there. When I switched to photo mode, the camera app crashed, restarted, crashed again. The figure in my peripheral vision seemed to shimmer, like heat distortion, but in September mountain air that was growing colder by the minute. In a patch of bare soil between the rocks, I found the first tracks. I squatted down, pulled out my trekking pole to measure. The prints were deep, pressed 2 inches into ground, so hard-packed my marrows barely left a mark. 3 toes, each one ending in a straight claw mark, not curved like a bear's. Reptilian. The stride length was impossible. I laid my pole between prints, 5.5 feet. Bipedal pattern, heel-to-toe walking, but the weight distribution was all wrong. The heel struck lighter than the toes, opposite of human gait, like something walking on its toes, trying to mimic human movement. I followed the tracks upslope. They wove between trees with purpose, taking the steepest route rather than following game trails. At one point, they simply stopped, not like the creature had backtracked or jumped. They just ended, mid-stride, in the middle of clear ground. When I looked up, scanning the ridgeline, the figure was gone. No, not gone. There, 200 yards to my right, on a completely different ridge. Then I blinked, and it was on the original ridge again. Then both places at once. My eyes wouldn't focus properly, like trying to force 2 images together that didn't align. The temperature dropped, not gradually, instantly, maybe 15 degrees in the space of a breath. My breath clouded. Frost formed on the nearby pine needles in seconds. Impossible for September afternoon. That smell hit me like a physical presence. Ozone and rot, like lightning strike and carrion, but underneath something sterile, chemical. The air pressure changed, made my ears pop. My black diamond headlamp started strobing, even though I hadn't turned it on. Broad daylight. But the LED was firing rapid pulses. I checked my GPS again, trying to reset it. The satellite page showed 12 satellites locked, perfect signal, but my position kept fracturing. 1 second I was here, the next 3 miles north, then somehow below my starting elevation. The track log looked like someone had scribbled across the map. The screen flickered, showed elevation readings jumping between 7,000 and 11,000 feet, then displayed coordinates that placed me somewhere in the Tetons, 60 miles south. The sound, that deep, resonating tone, pulsed from multiple directions now. North, east, behind me, and underneath it, something new, my own voice. The recording from hours earlier played back wrong, stretched and rasping like someone had slowed the audio and pitched it down. The park feels almost tamed. Then my breathing. The sound of my footsteps from the last 10 minutes. Each noise I'd made reflected back at me from different positions on the ridges, but not exactly right. My breathing had a wheeze I didn't have, my footsteps a drag that wasn't there. Like something was learning how to be me through sound alone, getting more accurate and more wrong simultaneously. I thought I found the trail, a clear path through the trees, heading back down toward the creek. Relief flooded through me. I half ran, half stumbled down it, desperate to get back to something known. But after 5 minutes, the trail curved wrong. I should have been heading west, back toward Specimen Creek. Instead, I was climbing again. The path led me up, always up, toward the ridge where that thing waited. That's when the mimicry got worse. Not just recordings now, real time. I heard my panicked breathing from 3 directions at once, each slightly out of sync. My footfalls echoed from ridges all around me, a percussion section of my own movement. When I stopped, they continued for 3 more steps, like whatever was making them had to remember to stop too. I turned slowly, scanning the ridge lines. The Ridge Watcher, I knew that's what it was now, stood on 5 different ridges simultaneously, not 5 creatures. The same one, somehow occupying multiple positions, each about the same distance from me, but in impossible directions. As I watched, frozen, they began consolidating, sliding together like film overlays, each position closer than the last. 5 became 3, 3 became 2, then 1, maybe 60 yards away. The thing moved without walking. No footfalls, no disturbed pine needles. It existed at point A, then point B, without crossing the space between. Each time I blinked, and I tried so hard not to blink, it appeared closer, occupying the space between moments. Its body was wrong for movement, too tall and lean, joints that bent in too many places. It didn't walk. It simply arrived, again and again, closer each time. That's when I saw it clearly. The thing stood at the tree line, fully illuminated in the afternoon sun that suddenly felt cold and wrong. Ash-gray fur over a frame that was fundamentally wrong. 7 feet tall but lean like it had been stretched. Digitigrade legs like a wolf walking upright. The face was elongated, lupine, but expressionless, wrong in its stillness. And the eyes, dull amber, unblinking, without the reflective quality of any animal I've ever encountered. They absorbed light instead of reflecting it. 2 holes in the world where light went to die. The sound emanated from its chest, not its mouth, which never moved. When I fumbled for my headlamp, tried to shine it directly at the thing, the creature tilted its head backward, too far, past 90 degrees, like its neck was broken, and the tone deepened, rattled through my bones until my headlamp died completely. Fresh batteries that morning, circuit fried. I ran. The elevation hit me like a wall. At nearly 9,000 feet now, each breath burned, couldn't get enough oxygen. My legs felt like lead, that particular high-altitude exhaustion where your body simply won't respond properly. I crashed through branches that tore at my jacket, stumbled over roots and rocks. The petrified trees I'd admired earlier loomed like tombstones in my peripheral vision. Electric Peak had vanished behind clouds that shouldn't exist. Behind me, around me, that bass tone followed, seemed to come from inside my skull now, my own voice echoing back from all directions. Feel small, feel small, feel small. I don't remember the next part clearly. Fragments, running in absolute darkness, though it had been afternoon. The sound of my breathing, that vibrating tone fading not with distance, but like someone slowly turning down volume. The smell of burnt electronics from my dead headlamp. Then suddenly, dawn light flooding the forest. I found myself near the original creek crossing, only 2 miles from the trailhead. My clothes were torn, legs scratched to hell, boots caked in mud from terrain I didn't remember crossing. The rangers at the backcountry office didn't believe me. They pulled my GPS data, hundreds of impossible loops covering terrain I couldn't have physically traversed in that time frame. According to the track log, I'd covered 40 miles in 6 hours, including vertical ascents and descents that would be physically impossible. They blamed device malfunction, elevation sickness, panic, dehydration. The senior ranger, a woman who'd worked the park for 20 years, wouldn't meet my eyes when she filed the report, just kept muttering about orientation errors and magnetic anomalies. But back home in Portland, I couldn't let it go. Started digging through forums, old reports, anything about the northwest corner of Yellowstone. Found a thread from 2003 buried in a backcountry skiing forum. 3 other people over the years describing the same thing above Specimen Creek. The figure on ridges, 3-toed tracks, the sound from everywhere. They call it the Ridge Eyes, local folklore among the old-timers in Gardner. Stories that go back to before the park was established, when native tribes avoided those specific ridges. The most recent post was from 2017. A woman who'd been doing wildlife research near Bighorn Peak. Same experience, same creature, same dismissal by authorities. The last comment in that thread, posted by someone whose grandfather was a ranger in the 60s, stays with me. It doesn't come down, you go up. I think about that line every night when I can't sleep. When I close my eyes and see those amber holes in reality, the Ridge Eyes is still out there, standing on those ridges above the North Fork, watching anyone who ventures too far from the marked trails. GPS can't save you from something that exists outside the maps we make. Technology just gives you the illusion of control until you meet something that doesn't follow the rules you thought governed the world. Don't camp alone up there. And if you see something standing on those ridges above Specimen Creek, something that doesn't move right, doesn't stand right, don't climb toward it. Don't try to understand it. Some things in those mountains are older than the trails we've cut through them, and they're waiting for people like me who think they understand how wilderness works. They're waiting for us to come up.